of the Meek, where we watch made-for-TV movies and miniseries so you don't have to. From Gia to Xenon, Hysteria to Sybil, welcome to Movies of the Meek.
So, the plot of this movie is that every 30 years, it attacks this small town. It needs to feed, okay? And so it feeds on children. It kills children. It eats children. That's what it's gotten to the point where that's what it does mainly. Whereas in the 1900s, the early 1900s, it was wiping out massive groups of people, which is brought up by Mike's school presentation. He's like, in 1900 there was a fire or something that like wiped out a whole bunch of people. Yeah. And you find out that was it. They actually show some pictures of it and some drawings of it. Now, one of the things that I've been thinking about is, why did it have to be these kids that come back and do it? Because 30 years ago, so 1950, they were the ones that stopped it. Does that mean that in 1990 there wasn't a group of kids that were also being terrorized in the same way that also potentially could have stopped it? Like, were they the weird fluke that happened this one time that was able to, like, stop it?
That's what it implies, I think, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if it had its way, it would have killed those kids and came back in the 90s or late 80s, 90s, and killed the next group, the next generation or whatever, that generation of kids. But since the kids, the loser club, they fought back, it like broke that chain. So when it came back, its only goal was to kill those people. Yeah. I think. But if I was I would just not even bother. I would just go into the next group of kids.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that, like, so the cold open of the movie is that it has come back and is killing kids again. And so the cold open of the movie is, and my personal favorite thing is that the cold open of the movie is Mike is now a librarian, and he's the one doing detective work, and he's just like, so what's the deal? And the cops are like, get the fuck out of here.
Mike, you're a librarian.
Mike, you are a librarian. Please leave. And Mike's like, they got another one. And they're like, yeah, Mike, you have to leave. You can't be here. And then it starts with voiceover narration where he's like, a long time ago, a similar thing happened, and now it's come back. And then it's like,
So did Mike have his memory wiped as well? Because it starts with him investigating that child murder, but he seems to know about it.
Yeah, so his memory wasn't wiped because he stayed in Derry, and he even says that. He's like, the only reason that my memory isn't gone is because I never left. Everything's fresh. Everything seems like it was yesterday.
Everyone else completely forgets.
And everyone else completely forgets everything.
It's fucking hilarious.
Which is so. A lot of things with this story are very similar to like Nightmare on Elm Street. Which, of course, Stephen King is like, I mean, I had the idea before Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, I started thinking of this book in 1978. I know I didn't publish it until, like, 1986, but, like, I had the idea for a really long time, guys. But a lot of the shit is literally identical to Nightmare on Elm Street, where it's all about the power of belief, you know? And so these kids have to believe in it in order for it to really attack them and shit like that. And it's based upon their fears, and when they no longer fear it, that's when, you know, they can fight back against it. That's when they're more powerful against it. And because of that, you know, they use all these different weapons against it, and the weapons that they use technically shouldn't be able to do anything, but just because they believe it can do something, that's when it works. So the silver, they don't know whether or not it'll work, but just because they saw in movies it works against monsters,
believe it can work.
They believe it can work, and it does work. Yeah. Later on, when Eddie sprays his inhaler at the monster, and he goes, "This is battery acid," and he sprays it. It's just because he believes it.
And that's just water.
And that's quote unquote just water.
Which we can get into that because I really do not understand that at all.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But that's, you know, a lot of these things are just legit. Like, they just seem like they're ripped out of Nightmare on Elm Street, and part of me would have liked for there to be a way that he kind of explained more the rules and the powers of belief that allow these things to happen, because it just kind of seems like they're making shit up as they're going along, and then later on they're like, we need to get silver bullets again, and it's like, do you? Couldn't you just get anything?
What's the thing? Mike goes back into like the sewers and finds them.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, I would not go. I would just get new silver pieces.
Yeah.
That seems a little dangerous.
Yeah.
He was like, I was pretty sure that I was still sleeping. But,
all right, so the first time that we encounter it is when he abducts that little girl. The second time that we encounter it is when he abducts Georgie.
Well, he doesn't abduct Georgie, right?
Well, he kills him and he brings him down to the
rips his arm off, which is like so fucking crazy.
I will say I wish they spent more time making me give a fuck about Georgie, because I didn't.
No.
And so when he becomes a pivotal part of Bill's story arc, I didn't care, because he legit is talking to Bill for, I don't know, 2 minutes of this 3-hour running time. And he's just like, Bill, tell me a story, Bill, Bill, tell me a story, Bill, man, story. And then Bill's just like, here's a fucking boat, like, just take it away, I don't feel good, I'm tired. And then he's like, Bill, I'm gonna play outside, Bill. And then he goes and runs outside and he dies. And you're just like, oh, okay, I guess that's it for that character. And then when he comes back, it's like, I don't care, because I have no attachment to you at all. And then I also like, so you have the scene of Tim Curry inside the sewers, and he's like, we all float down here, come on down, boy. That sequence, I love how they cut away from him pulling Georgie into the sewer, because you know they didn't have a budget to actually have a shot of him being pulled into the sewer.
Yeah, that's evident throughout the film. This had a made-for-TV movie budget.
Yeah. This movie also has too many characters. It makes sense.
Too many characters, and then since it takes place over 4 decades, we get the child version and the adult version of those characters.
Yeah.
It's just there's a lot going on, and the way the movie structures, it keeps cutting back and forth from present or 1990s to 1950s.
Yeah.
And it didn't work for me.
Same. And the thing that, of course, I do enjoy that, like, the flashback sequences are linear, so at least they're moving forward as the sequences in the regular movie timeline are moving forward. So, good job. It's not like they're just flashing back to random points in these kids' lives. Yeah. It all is, like, progressing and moving forward. However, it was terrible. Like, it just... It took so fucking long.
It kind of
sometimes in the flashbacks they would introduce 2 characters, and I'd be like, good, now you don't need to have 7 goddamn flashbacks. But guess what? They had 7 goddamn flashbacks.
Absolutely. It kind of, I mean, these movies are different, but it reminded me in the way that Suicide Squad kind of introduced all those characters up front.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, you're just like, holy shit. Because this movie literally, it shows the kid version, then it shows the adult version of one character, and then it does the same thing 5 different times.
They also, the worst thing ever is that so it'll show the kid, like, clutching the side of his face in horror, and then there's a cross dissolve to the older character clutching their face, and then, like, they pull their hand away, and they're just like, and now I'm a stand-up comedian. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Richie! Like, fucking terrible. Structurally, this movie reminds me a lot of a really terrible version of the movie Oculus, if you've ever seen that.
I have not seen Oculus.
So, it's by director Mike Flanagan. Dude's fucking awesome. He did Oculus, he did Hush, he also did Ouija Origins. So, I love all of his films. The dude kills it. And the first one that I saw of his was Oculus. And the thing that's cool is that, identical to this structure, it has a main storyline, and then it has flashbacks that are intercut throughout the movie. Now, the difference between Oculus and this movie is that there is a build of tension, and that as the two storylines continue moving forward, they end up building dread, and they build up tension, and they're both building up scares, okay? That entire last third of that movie is terribly depressing and horrifying, and the entire time that I was in the last third of that movie, I was just like, oh god, like, this is the worst. Whereas in it, so many of the flashbacks cut narrative tension, okay? And a lot of the fucking shit that they do in this movie, I get it. Like, you love the 50s. We don't need a sequence of Mike and Bill riding around on the fucking bike, and it's like, bug. Like, we don't need that shit to happen.
That's my biggest problem with this movie, is that it doesn't, like, there are some serious creepy parts, and, like, I mean, anything in Pennywise is pretty scary. Just the way he portrays that character.
Yeah.
But even within those scenes, like, I don't feel dread. I don't feel, like, I'm not scared at the end of those scenes, because, like you said, they don't build up to those scenes. They just kind of appear out of nowhere. And like you say, like, they constantly are cutting between the past and present.
Yeah.
And for no fucking reason.
Yeah, and you know, when they get to the town and, like, it's all of them reunited and they're like, let's go to dinner, fun dinner scene, and it's like, yeah, they disperse it with, like, some creepy stuff, but at the same time, there's a whole bunch of them laughing around a table and just being like, what's the deal in your life? And it's terrible. It completely, they should be showing up in that town and have one fucking mission and be terrified.
Yeah, and they're not.
Then
they don't.
When they find out Stan kills himself, like, that should be like fucking, that should ruin them, and most of them should just want to bail, and then another thing should come in that makes it so that they have no other option, and then they just go do the thing.
No, but what's his face, Ricky?
Yeah,
he's talking about bailing the whole time.
Yeah,
like, they're about to fight the thing, and he's like, you know what, guys, I think I'm gonna go home.
Yeah,
like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know. I agree 100%. So I wonder if it's like that because of the format, because of the, you know, the commercial breaks and stuff. Maybe they were trying to have it so you could kind of jump in at any time and get a feel for what's happening by, like, the nature of the structure. Does that make sense? So, like, like, you know what I mean? Like, the fact that they introduce these characters, each one in the same manner. If I were to jump in at any time
for an hour and a half.
Yeah, but I could jump in any time during the hour and a half and kind of get an idea what's happening. There's like that structure where there's, you know, them as kids, them as adults, they're going to dairy. Like, maybe that had some part in why this is structured so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just know it doesn't work.
Yeah. It's just, you know, it's an hour and a half of flashbacks from them as adults to them as kids.
Which, I mean, sucks because I think what they did with Pennywise is legit amazing. Like, I really thought he was fucking creepy.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
I don't know.
You know, but even that, like, they made weird stylistic choices with the music, you know, and it's just like fucking carnival music, and
that wasn't scary.
It wasn't scary.
No. It was just fucking. He's like super creepy as Pennywise.
Yeah,
his, like, gross bloodshot eyes.
You know, so they introduce all the characters. You see young Ben, and everyone makes fun of him for being a porker, but he wasn't even really that fat. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. And then you meet the antagonist of the movie that isn't Pennywise, which is Henry. And his greaser buddies, one of which is named Belcher. Yeah.
And guess what he does, Max?
He belches. But Stephen King just loves greasers, and he loves kid-on-kid violence.
Yep.
Like, he's all about that. So they're introducing all the characters. And once again, so you have Ben's introduced, and when Ben is introduced, they show Beverly because his plot line is very, like, Beverly's a huge part of it. It's integral to his plot line. So they introduce Beverly, and girls walk by Beverly and say, some people have no class, some people have janitors for parents, and then you hear Beverly go, my name's Beverly. And so it's like, in that flashback, there's two flashbacks that happen where you could have just gotten rid of 2 flashbacks. So instead of having 7, you could have just had 5. But instead they have all of them. And it takes so long, and the only reason I was kind of fine with it is because flashback number 6 is Seth Green, and I fucking was so stoked that young Seth Green was in this movie.
Yeah, he killed it.
And he does great. And I love Eddie talking with Seth Green, and talking with Ben, and talking with Billy, and young Eddie is just like, my dad died of the big C, cancer. I was like, this is the first time that this has ever happened, because I fucking love it. It seems like when they're doing flashbacks and going back and forth between their past and present lives, it seems like everyone's doing real good except for Mike, who just works at the library. I mean, Beverly
and Bev, I don't.
Yeah, Beverly's in an abusive relationship,
Yeah.
but she seems to be high up there, doing pretty good.
Mm.
I was not expecting during the flashback sequences to have a dam building montage. I did not think that would be something they would dedicate time to, but once again, they're having all these flashbacks where Pennywise is showing up, and then they're like, you know what? Let's have some sweet 50s music, and then just building a dam, and then they build the dam, and they're like, yeah, we did it. Good times.
And then the greasers show up and destroy it.
Yeah.
So that was just filler, I think.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
But they do that a lot, though. They do those 50s montages.
Yeah.
The fucking bike one is the best. Especially because cuts between them as kids.
Yeah.
I think is it Billy?
It's Billy and Mike.
Billy and Mike as kids riding the bike, and then it cuts their adult forms.
Yeah.
Just...
the part where Mike rides up the seesaw and it teeters down, and then he rides back down it, and fucking Billy is sitting next to the seesaw. He's like, wow.
He's like, golly, that's great.
Whoa, jeez.
These are the lamest group of people.
That's why they're called the Losers Club.
I know. Fucking Billy and his pony. They're all just... Well, except for John Ritter. He's pretty cool.
Billy's fucking ponytail.
Well, he's a writer, so of course he needs a ponytail.
Of course he has a ponytail. Pennywise just basically wants to kill these kids, and so he's showing up in different ways. And another story that this is really similar to is Stephen King's son, Joe Hill, wrote a comic book series called Lock and Key. And one of the things with that story, which is very similar to this one, is that the parents can't see anything. And once you reach, in Lock and Key, I think it's once you turn 18, you can't see anything. And so it's very much the sequence, which might be my only favorite sequence from this movie, is when there are voices coming from inside of the sink, and they're talking to Beverly during her flashback. And then all of a sudden, just because of the fact that, the balloons are kind of fucking lame. I'll be honest. It seems like in the new movie, they figured out they're lame, and they're like, let's only have red balloons, because at least the color red is menacing. Whereas in this movie, he's like, yuck, 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 got some yellow ones, got some green ones, yuck, 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 hey, guys. And so during the sequence where there's a balloon that's expanding in the sink, at least it's a red one, and it kind of just looks like it's a blood bubble. And then when it bursts, it's just a shit ton of blood everywhere. And so I didn't even think of that as another one of his dumb fucking balloons. I thought of that as just a bubble of blood that bursts. And then the sequence where, the dad comes in and he's looking at the sink, and he's like, what's going on? And she realizes that he can't even see it. And she's like, oh, I saw a spider. And he's like, well, these sewers are very old. And then he's just taking his bloody hands and rubbing them M on her face.
Yeah.
That sequence was the only one I liked.
You didn't like the mummy or the werewolf one?
No.
No? You didn't like those scenes?
No,
They weren't scary?
They were not scary. That was the only thing from this entire movie that I was like, okay, that was good.
Yeah. Anytime that it's not Pennywise, it's pretty lame for the most, I think. Yeah. I don't think there's any, even the ending was really lame.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the director has said, looking back, that one, now that he's read the book, it doesn't live up to the book. And
now that he's read the book.
Yeah. You know, because a lot of people, when they're doing an adaptation, they just want the script to speak for itself. And so he didn't really want to be influenced by it. And he said that, you know, now that he's read the book, it's not as good as the book. And then on top of that he really wishes that they hadn't switched to a giant spider for the end of the movie. He really wishes that it just continued being Tim Curry. But
was it a spider in the book?
At the end of the book, I'm pretty sure I haven't read it since the 90s, but if I remember correctly, it's something that's like it's like unfathomable.
Is it like the massive, headlights or floodlights or whatever?
Yeah, like the deadlights, and it's just like this massive like thing. Like at the end of the book, if I remember correctly, like they go inside of it. Okay. And that's how they kill it, because they go inside of it and they find its heart, and they're able to break it from the inside of it.
In the movie, it is a giant spider.
Also, I know I just said I don't really have any favorite parts, but really my favorite part is when they knock the spider over and they just kick it.
They're just tearing legs off.
Because that part's so fucking bad. Like, it moves around like it's a cardboard box. And they're just kicking it, and they're just like,
They pull out its heart. Oh, that was so fucking lame. That's what I'm saying, that this movie just, like, at the end of this movie, if you have not read the book, you would just think this is an evil spider with powers.
Yeah.
Which is not at all what it is in the book.
Yeah.
You know?
And, like, why, another thing is that, so it's supposed to take the form of whatever you're afraid of, which they establish in exposition really bad when they're hanging out on when they take the picture of the Losers Club together after they confront the greasers and they throw rocks at them. They're hanging out on that wrecked like steamroller or whatever, and that's when they say in exposition, they're just like, it turns into whatever you're afraid of. It's like, yeah, but why a clown though? Because I feel like not everyone's afraid of a clown, and it just seems to really like being that clown.
Yeah, that's his favorite form.
Yeah, like it just does it. You know, and as we continue forward through flashbacks, you have the shower scene, which I will say, I don't like the shower scene, but it is iconic. Like, that's a really famous scene.
Why don't you like it?
I just think it's, like, shitty, and it's shittily done, and then the fucking claymation.
I like the claymation. That was my favorite part.
I hate that. And then he leans and he like puts his hand in his head and he's just like, "Hey, yo, buddy, how's it going?" And I just don't care for it.
Do anything for you.
Once again, it's a really famous scene. I know it's famous. I know a lot of people love it. I just don't care for it. And then when they introduce current day Richie, they use a handheld cam for that.
Yeah.
And it looks terrible. Like, it is the shakiest, terrible shot in the movie.
There are some cool shots in this movie.
You know, and so that's when, you know, you get Richie's flashback narrative has the fucking Wolfman in it, because he's afraid of the Wolfman. And I hated it. And that was, you know, once they introduced the Wolfman, and then he punches the Wolfman, and then you find out that he isn't the Wolfman, it's the clown. Mm-hmm. He says we all float down here for like the 9,000th goddamn time. And that's when, so then you finally, Mike's flashback is like so far. He's like the last flashback. And when they have the last flashback, because he's the last member of the Losers Club that gets introduced to the Losers Club. So in Mike's flashback, I was like, please don't say the N-word. And they say the N-word 2 times.
Yeah, they do.
And I was shocked that was,
this was
on television. Because, and apparently the kid that plays young Henry apologized to him every single time.
That's so rude.
He was like, I just want you to know that, like, this is in the script, and I don't feel this way, and I feel really bad that I have to say this to you, and so I really don't want to say this to you, but I have to say this to you because of the script. And once again, like, this isn't me. It's almost like he had to explain what acting was.
But he really, he said it like he meant it in the movie.
Yeah.
So he killed it. But yeah, I think this movie pushed some boundaries at the time, between the use of the N-word and
Good. Great.
And just like the amount of gore in this.
I
mean, it wasn't a lot of, like, body mutilation and stuff, but it was a lot of blood with the balloons exploding. And
a lot.
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting. This was 1990, so there probably wasn't that many things on TV that had this much blood. Nowadays, I mean, this looks pretty tame.
Yeah, definitely.
Except for the N-word.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen today.
Oh yeah. That shocked the shit out of me. I have this, which wasn't on the Goofs page. So when Mike goes and he meets the Losers Club for the first time, the Greasers come. They're chasing after him. They want to beat the shit out of him because he is, black.
He's black.
They don't like that. And so they're running after him. So the Losers Club are fighting the Greasers and they're throwing rocks at them. And so Beverly gets hit in the right arm and she screams and she grabs her left arm.
Good catch.
Yeah, that's a really dumb one. So then they all talk about how they've all seen the clown in its various forms, and they decide to go confront it for the first time, okay? And when they confront it for the first time, they all take a puff of the inhaler.
Okay, yeah, I saw that part. Now, in the book, I believe they do like a blood pack or something. Don't they all cut their hands? So maybe this was in place of that.
Okay, yeah.
But it didn't make any sense. Also, don't they all comment saying this tastes gross? But then they hit home in the movie that the pharmacist was giving Eddie
a placebo
inhaler because he knew that he didn't really have asthma.
Yeah.
But then why are they all saying that it tastes like chemicals?
Yeah. I don't know.
Why was that even a thing in the movie that it was a placebo effect? Like that never concludes in any meaningful way, I don't think.
No. He does go back to the pharmacist to tell him, "Hey, you were right. My mom is a bitch, and thank you. But I still need this placebo, though."
That's what I'm saying. Like he's like, I'm aware. Like you were right, but I'm still buying into it.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense, and it didn't really do anything. So they confront it for the first time. They fight him. They hit him with the pieces of silver because they saw it in the werewolf movie. The greaser, the one kid gets sucked into the pipes and he dies.
That was awesome.
That was pretty good.
That was my favorite death in the movie.
That was pretty solid. I also like how it's a dummy, but at the same time, like the look that they gave his face when he's being sucked in was like perfect.
Oh yeah.
It was just like doomed and dead. Like I absolutely did love that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And then Henry is so terrified that his fucking hair turns white. I loved it. Yeah. And that was at the point that I was just like, is this an alien? I was like, what did they do? What did they do to stop the alien? Because they hit it in the head with those things, and then white light pours out of its head, and then they just hold hands.
Yeah. That wasn't so. Pennywise is just like a manifestation of the spider creature in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, the spider creature, so from what I understand this movie, the spider creature lives in that lair, but uses these, like, fake forms to go around terrorizing people.
I think technically, so in the belly of the spider creature, there's a translucent layer of skin, and you can see the inside of it, which is just pure white light. That's what it is.
So even the spider is just a version.
Another version of it. Yeah.
But the movie implies that is the final form of it, though, kind of.
I think there's a bit of ambiguity in whether or not it is what it is.
But it's kind of cool to think that it's an alien, because it really makes this movie like a sci-fi movie, more so than a straight-up horror movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they temporarily kill it.
Yeah.
Or whatever. It goes back into hibernation for 30 years.
Yeah, and
they all go their separate ways.
And and Mike is like, we got a promise.
Oh yeah.
If it does come back, we're gonna come back and face this thing together. And they're just like, yeah, we'll do it. And Stan saw into the deadlights. He saw into the white light, and so that's what basically fucking breaks him. And so since that's the last flashback that you see is his flashback, and so because he saw into the deadlights, because he saw its true form, he kills himself, and that's the end of night 1.
There was not enough blood in that scene.
Oh, for him slitting his wrist? Yeah.
But, again, that was still crazy. That was on TV in 1990.
And that it showed a guy, that killed himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty nuts. So then it's just them returning to the town. One of the things that's kind of weird and interesting is that I wonder how much of it was in the script, their weird sexual, like comfortability with each other, because, like, they all kind of act like they've all fucked.
Yeah. They all seem
like they're
very
lovers
close
together, which, if they were true to the book, would be the case. Because
they do in the sewers, right?
Yeah, because they do have they run a train on Bev in the book.
But there was a reason, right?
It was so that basically that they could go from being children to adults. Like, that was their transitionary moment. Because there's the loss of innocence, and that's when you move on to adulthood.
Okay.
But that never happens, and so for some reason in the second half of the movie, they're all just, like, fucking rubbing on each other, and it's just real weird.
The dynamic between the adult, like, all the adults was very strange, I thought.
Yeah.
And like, they didn't have a lot of chemistry.
Oh, no, yeah.
The kids were way better as a group, but
yes. And so Audra gets kidnapped. They have to go and
do it again one more time
after they have a wonderful dining sequence, and after Bev goes back to her home. That was another sequence that I did enjoy, where she talks to the old lady, and then after she talks to the old lady for a while, she then finds out that not only does that lady not exist, but the house is abandoned.
I enjoyed her dad as a zombie in drag.
That was pretty good.
That was pretty funny. But yeah, that part kind of reminded me of Nightmare on Elm Street or something.
Yeah.
Like because it was almost like she was dreaming.
Yeah.
And it cuts to, like, the abandoned building. But
now
that was an effective scene.
So they go and confront it. They fight it. They beat it by kicking it till it dies.
I like the
so when they confront it, they have the slingshot. They use the slingshot to shoot Silver at it, and she misses the first time, and then the second time she hits it, and it does nothing, and then they spray it with the inhaler, and then they hit it again, and it does something, and it runs away, and they're like, "We got it. It's good."
She hits it. She shoots both silver pieces and misses. and then Eddie.
She hits it one time and it bounces off.
No, yeah, so exactly. So it bounces off, and then she goes to look for them while Eddie fights it.
Yeah, but then
he
sprays it with
just
the
dies.
inhaler and he dies.
He just gets picked up and dies.
Yeah.
He's so fragile.
Yeah.
And then she shoots it into the deadlight on its stomach. Yeah. It goes into one of the deadlights.
Yeah, I don't know.
But the problem there is that they never established the rules of this universe.
Yeah.
And its weaknesses.
Yeah.
And like I said, at this point,
very frustrating.
You just think this is an alien spider.
Yeah. And you're 2 hours and 40 minutes.
And you just want it to end.
You just, yeah.
And the fucked up part is that it doesn't end. Because after this scene, there's another beautiful scene that was unnecessary of Billy and Audra.
Yeah.
That beautiful scene.
Yeah.
All right, so they kill.
We even skipped a part because like Pennywise uses Henry to try and kill them off, but it's like who fucking cares?
That didn't even like
that
again.
Was so long. This movie's so fucking long. Miniseries is so long.
It was almost 4 hours long, right? It's like 3.
It's. I know it's over 3.
Yeah, it's like 3.5, a little over 3.5 hours, and yeah, by this point in the movie, you're just like,
yeah.
Like, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
But, Pennywise, like, possesses him or something.
He just, like, he convinces him. He's just like, hey,
you have to kill this.
You have to finish what you started as a kid. And apparently he's been insane. Well, because he looked into the deadlights, so that's what drove him insane.
But another thing is, so Pennywise, he controls everyone in Derry. Like, not just the children, but he also manipulates all the adults. That's why as he feeds on these children, none of these murders are, I mean, police investigate, but nothing ever happens. Like there's no national hysteria of these child.
It's more that they don't care.
Because
like they know that it's always been that way.
Because either they're afraid of Pennywise or he's manipulating them in some way.
Yeah.
Because he shows himself to the security guard at the mental institution.
Yeah.
So he can feed on anyone. He can scare anyone.
Yeah.
I read, and this isn't in the movie, but reading up on it, he chooses the children because they're easier to manipulate.
Yeah.
It's harder because adults have way more, I guess, more complex fears.
Yeah, which is like Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's a cool concept, but yeah, again, it's like it's already been done.
Like fucking Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
It's like, god damn it.
Yeah, this is a worse Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, it's a worse, way longer Nightmare on Elm Street. And I fucking hate it. Yeah, I mean, I just have like my last note is that there's just no fucking rules, and I hated that there were no rules. And then he gets Audra. She's caught in a web. He gets her out, and he takes her. She's fucking dead inside because she saw into the deadlights. And so, he has a flashback to when he and Mike were running away from bullies, and he was pedaling real hard. He's like, if I can just do that again, I think I can save you. And it's like, where are you getting that idea from, bro? But anyway, so then he just pedals as hard as he can, and as he's pedaling, he's like, "Hi, Silva!" And as he's doing that, she comes out of her coma, and she's like, Billy. And then they stop in the middle of fucking traffic, and then the fucking voiceover narration from Mike comes back, and he's like, and then she was fine, and a little bit after that I started to forget things. And it's like, why are you forgetting things? Everyone doesn't have to forget stuff. You didn't leave Derry. You didn't leave last time. You remembered everything from last time. Why are you forgetting things? And he's like, and that's why I have this journal, and I'm forgetting things even as I'm writing in it. It's like, why are you forgetting things? You haven't left fucking Derry. There are no rules, and it doesn't make sense. You don't fucking do anything right. The end.
I think that bike had more importance in the book. Silver.
Sure.
But it didn't make sense So, would you recommend this movie?
No. I straight up wouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend this either. I would watch the new one that's coming out. I've heard that was Stephen King approved.
He approves everything. He's
he didn't approve The Shining.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Arguably, like, the best adaptation of one of his books.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, it wasn't faithful. That's why he didn't like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just read an interview today where he watched it. He's like, it's better than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
So.
But fucking.
Yeah, this movie is pretty fucking.
Yeah. If you like Tim Curry, who I thought was dead up until last night, it's a great movie.
Billy,
yeah, but no, I would not suggest this.
I would suggest going on YouTube and looking up Pennywise and watching like a supercut of all the Pennywise scenes.
Just like,
or read the book. I wish I might do now.
Fucking like, if this were split into 6 parts, then I would say do it.
It was originally planned as an 8-hour miniseries. They cut it in half.
Don't do that.
They cut it in half, Max. It was originally planned to be double. Can you imagine this movie for twice as long?
I was just trying to say that you should watch it in 30-minute increments. Yeah, fuck this movie. So now here's IMDb trivia. All right, you ready?
Oh, I'm ready, Max. I'm always ready for your trivia.
The gray in Mike's hair was achieved by brushing in baby powder with a toothbrush.
Huh. Must use a lot of baby powder.
A lot of baby powder. That's a shit ton of baby powder.
Wait, is this the child and adult version?
Does young Mike have...
Oh, Mike.
Yeah.
What about Henry? They use baby powder?
They don't even say how they did that.
That was more baby powder.
That's a mystery.
Wait, they did baby powder for Mike's...
Yeah, for Mike's gray
Wait,
hair.
what?
That's some movie magic. Richard Thomas had to practice for days before doing the bike scene with Audra.
That was like the most bizarre thing I've ever seen on film.
For days. Alice Cooper was originally considered for the role of Pennywise.
Oh,
how fucking sick would that have been?
That would have been awesome.
Henry Anderson improv'd a lot of Richie's one-liners. Shocker. Because they were terrible. Alright, so got some goofs.
Alright.
Young Bill has a dimple on his chin that old Bill doesn't have.
Huh.
The people in the library jump when Pennywise's balloons pop in front of them, even though they're not supposed to hear them. And then... this is a new subcategory of goofs that I invented for this movie, which is, why are you looking at this, you creepy weird person goof? Which is, when Eddie is in the shower, he goes to put his towel back on, you can clearly see underwear or some sort of article in clothing. Were you trying to see some fucking young dick, you weirdo? Because you're a fucking monster of a person. Back to regular goofs. Young Beverly pulls the slingshot with her right hand, suggesting she's right-handed, whilst the adult Beverly uses her left hand.
Damn. Those are some deep-cut goofs.
Why were you checking to see if he was wearing underwear? You fucking weirdo. The fuck is wrong with you?
It's funny that IMDb accepted that one. Too.
Yeah.
They're like, this is fine.
They won't accept my one about hats for Mazes and Monsters.
They didn't accept that?
They still haven't accepted it.
Oh, they're still reviewing the movie, Max.
Yeah, they probably...
They have to go through the movies and make sure.
And because it's IMDb, they probably have to, like, buy a copy of it. They can't just watch it on YouTube.
They're probably like, emailing the actor who played JJ.
How many ants did you wear? I don't want to watch your film. So next week we'll be watching Johnny Capahala Back on Board?
Yeah. Wow.
All right.
Hell yeah, you remembered.